I'll do it. That's
Okay.
fine.
It's like an Oscar. Good morning, Glenn and everybody at Thrives. Thank you for having us here today. My name is Larry Crepeau. I'm the Executive Director of Washington County Kids. And to my right is Katie Riley, Founder and Board President. And we're here to share a little bit about Washington County Kids, what we do, and the gap that exists, which is why we're here. Washington County Kids growth has continued from its founding in 2009 through this year when we added our first paid staff, myself. And I'm fortunate to work with an amazing group of volunteers towards our mission, which is to increase access to quality out-of-school time programs that equip Washington County children and youth for success. How do we do this? One thing we do is, as someone mentioned it earlier, network and community obviously is key, but we provide resources to parents and providers. We expand awareness to the need, and one of the reasons why we're here today is to share with you. And we engage collaborators in our growing network of providers and partners to look at recent successes and challenges that are affecting our community. A lot of the things that we do depend on three different areas. The parents, we do a provider database basically to connect parents up with providers that they may not have known about. We also do some live speaker series. So we have had topics such as parents helping with anxiety and depression, the digital age, how to keep your kids safe and healthy, and being a trauma-informed parent are some of the more recent topics. And then the providers. One of the new things that we're doing is we're having a monthly focus on providers, and it is simply a Zoom with myself and maybe some of the board members, and it's literally providers from all over Washington County. And it's just like this, networking and connecting about kind of the issues that they see, and it has been invaluable in helping us define kind of further driving our mission. What do we need to address? It also has informed different topics. We do some training for providers that actually end up with CKC credit hours. So we're really trying to connect everybody up in a few different ways. And then advocacy for funding for after school and summer programs, which we'll get into a little bit. And did you want to?
So we are focusing on school-age kids. And part of the reason we do that is because Washington County already has an early learning hub. But we are concerned about all kids. And what we're emphasizing today is a little bit more about Washington County. We really are appreciative of the Youth Development Oregon initiative. And what we're trying to do is focus on what Washington County needs. And so we do liaison work. We do participate in the steering committee for the Early Learning Hub, sit on the Juvenile Crime Prevention Advisory Committee, also the county Substance Abuse Prevention Advisory Committee. Also, we work with Oregon Ask, which is a statewide group, and Our Children Oregon, which is also statewide. And we also try to do that by compiling data which we believe will be helpful in terms of advocating and telling the story of why kids really do need out-of-school time programs. We partnered this past year with the League of Women Voters of Oregon to update their 1988 child care study and expand it to include after-school and summer programs. And that study is available on our website. In 2019, we issued a report on focus groups we had done with parents throughout the county about barriers they faced in terms of getting care for their kids. So let's look at a little bit of data here. So the total county population is over 600,000. Out of that, about 21% are kids under the age of 18. Only 5.2% are kids under the age of 5. We are focusing on the group that's school age, which is about 16%, and it's a larger group. There are 7 school districts in Washington County. Department of Ed reports on data regarding each district separately. We have compiled data to try to look at the county as a whole in order to see, okay, what is the total picture? So, free and reduced lunch program. This is often equated with economically disadvantaged kids in the county. And currently we have 38 schools out of about 121 that have more than 50% of the kids in that school eligible for free and reduced lunch. And that's a pretty low bar. Okay, so this shows that there's really a problem. And this is up from 10 schools in 2019. We have about 2,500 kids who are homeless, that the schools count as homeless. That includes kids who are couch surfing. So we decided to look at test scores. We believe that test scores are sometimes the canary in the coal mine. They are showing us what the real problems are. And we first focused on 3rd grade because it's considered that kids who have capability or proficiency for 3rd grade reading and other skills are then able to understand the content that comes afterwards, okay, because they can read enough to then analyze the information that they're going through. What we see here, we did a comparison between scores in 2017, 2018, and 2022, 23, the most recent scores, to take a look at, okay, what might have happened during the pandemic. So you've got a before and after switch here. And we looked at the economically disadvantaged, in other words, the kids who are eligible for free and reduced lunch, versus all other students. So we see for 3rd grade a drop of about 5% in terms of the proficiency decrease over there on the right. And for other students, 9%. So it was even greater for other students as well. See an even greater effect. The difference between the economically disadvantaged and other students was 38% in 2017, 2018. So actually the difference between those 2 groups decreased slightly. When we look at data, usually we consider if there's a difference of 5% or more, it's significant. So this is not really that big of a decrease necessarily, it's only 4%, but it still shows a pattern here. Okay, so looking then at math scores, we see pretty similar here, but an even greater disparity in terms of the difference between those who are economically disadvantaged and other students. It was 40%. But what happened during the pandemic is that the difference between those 2 groups decreased. It meant that all kids were having problems. Okay, so because the difference then between the 2 of them was only 14% this year. All right, then what we decided to do is to take a look at adolescents. Adolescent kids are, adolescence is a period when it's the 2nd greatest period of brain development. Kids are learning to be more independent. They are taking risks. They are still learning. They're dependent on their parents, but it's a really very huge, important time, as the people in youth development know. So we decided to look at 8th graders. Okay, so that is a key area here. So the English scores here. Economically disadvantaged, 42% were proficient in 2017, 2018. That's pretty bad, okay? 26% this year in the county. So that's a drop of 16%. Other students, however, they dropped, but it was about 8%, but it's still a drop. Now, one of the things that you need to know, too, is this group, this cohort, is the same group that in 2017, 2018 were tested at the third grade level. Okay, so it's a good comparison here, too. But the proficiency difference between the economically disadvantaged and other students, okay, was 35% in 2017, 2018, but it increased to 43%. It's a huge difference in terms of language capability. Okay, looking at math. Here we have a drop for the economically disadvantaged of 13% between the 2 years. Other students, 19%. Once again, it's the same kind of pattern as with the third graders, where they had an even greater drop than those who are economically disadvantaged. And you know why? Because those who are economically disadvantaged were already at a low point. Okay, so what we determined from here is that kids need our help, particularly older kids. And the situation was bad before, but it got worse. For kids ages 16 to 18, it's too late for early learning interventions. But out-of-school time programs can make a difference. So the research about after-school and summer programs tell us that it leads to better academic performance, more likelihood of graduating on time, social emotional skills, which help kids overcome challenges, and fewer problems with substance use. The social emotional skills thing I want to emphasize, a recent study just came out that says that for every dollar invested, you get $11 return. So the return on investment is great. We want them to have fewer problems with substance abuse, higher lifelong income, and there are intergenerational positive results. So it shows that it can even be cumulative. So if a kid participates in an out-of-school time program, their children and even grandchildren benefit from that experience. So we took a look at, we wanted to find out in Washington County how many kids are getting the benefit of these experiences. We did a survey in 2018. These are the results. 62% of the kids were being served in elementary school, 26% in middle school, and 13% in high school. So it really decreases. We are not serving all of the kids like we should in terms of out-of-school time programs. Then we also were talking to the juvenile division. They did an assessment of the kids who were going through their services. They found that 2/3 of the kids going through those juvenile department services had not been participating in any kind of outside of school activities. That includes sports, music, even after school and summer programs that we're talking about here. So the good news is that kids are resilient and they can find a path to success with the right help from us.
These are just some of the providers, the partners that we're working with, and we're always, as I mentioned earlier, always looking to increase. I want to ask, could we do a real quick show of hands? Are any of those numbers surprising to anybody, or is that pretty much where everybody thought we were? Just kind of curious. Okay. For me, the juvenile department slide, just go back. It's just shocking to me. I mean, it really tells you kind of all the way through. You want to go, oh, next one. Nope, no, after. Keep going. There we go. Okay, this was supposed to be an up arrow. Something happened with the format of the slide, but that was supposed to be the good news. But everybody in this room agrees this is our vision. All children will have the opportunity to reach their full potential. That is literally why we're here. Whether we're talking OST programs, whether we're talking early learning, that's the nice thing. This group, we all agree on it. So what we're asking today is just kind of ways that you can help Washington County kids basically move our mission forward. We are, as Katie mentioned, some surveys, we're actually talking with county commissioners, trying to get an updated needs assessment in this area. If you're so inclined, please email your support to Commissioner Willie. That's one thing you can do. Connect with us. Let us know other providers that you have in your neighborhood, your local schools. It's like we want to make sure that we have a robust network of everybody. And please join our mailing list. We would love to get connected. We do a monthly newsletter so you can kind of see what's going on, and that will give you some direct links to those events that we talked about, like the monthly focus on providers. And lastly is our contact information. Another subtle plug to join our mailing list. So.
And we are happy to answer any questions. Yes, go ahead.
Grab the microphone, please.
Oh, here. Here, I got it.
Hi, Bruce Bartlett. I have a question for both the Youth Services and Washington County Kids. I noticed that there's no explicit mention of the extension service programs, the Juntos program for high school graduation, the 4-H with the leadership, and it seems like with the university support behind those programs, it'd be extremely valuable partners. And I'm hoping that, I know I connected you, Katie, to 4-H a little bit.
Right.
And so can you both speak to the partnership or potential partnership with extension service programs?
I'll speak to that a little bit. So we are partnering as, whatever can be done in terms of 4-H. We have not, we've had some interaction with 4-H. We'd be happy to have more, okay? So we're open.
Yes, so we actually, a lot of our organizations may partner with 4-H. We are a part of it. One of our board members is actually works with 4-H directly, so we had some connections. I attended 4-H Leadership Convention, which I didn't even know existed. My kids are in 4-H personally and the animal sciences, so we went to this leadership convention where it's really focused on it. And so what we did with that opportunity is we asked the youth that are there to become stronger leaders, what can we do as a state agency to help better support youth? So we're engaging in it. A lot of our partners do connect with it, but it is one of those things that is definitely something that we're more interested in. We don't currently grant anything to extension communities, but we definitely have organizations that work with them.
Yes, go ahead.
Somebody have a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Jess O'Donnell with Active Children Portland. About a month ago, our governor put out a press release indicating that the decline in academic scores post-pandemic has kind of leveled off. But one of the things that she called for in it was a partnership between out-of-school time programming and schools, recognizing that this isn't something that schools can handle on their own to bolster our kids. I'm curious if you or anyone in the room has been privy to any of the conversations about how, yes, she's acknowledged that this is a thing, that there needs to be partnership, but where do we go from here? How do we
So there
solidify?
is a new coalition that's been formed. Oregon Ask and Department of Ed are working together to look at, and other groups, including us, are looking at how do we get funding for out-of-school time programs. And the coalition is called EASE, Expanding After School and Summer Learning, or After School and Summer Experiences, that's it. And so there is a task group that will be looking on that, at that statewide. I think one of the key things is figuring out how do you fund it. And this is an issue, I think, for Washington County as well. And so that's one of the things that we look at. Grants are great, okay? However, they go away. After a while, you get a grant for 2 years, 5 years, whatever. What do you do after that? You need to have sustainable funding. And this is one of the problems that has happened with a lot of situations with grants. We did partner on an application for YDD and then HCCC. We didn't get either one, but we partnered with 4 or 5 providers plus Prosperidad, which is out of Centro Cultural, to try and offer training to kids to work in childcare, and then also develop their own work source skills as well. We're hoping we can probably reapply or be considered again. Anyway, those are some ideas on that, but funding is a really critical issue.
Although I will say it was good news that it was actually called out. So we took that as a positive.
But the flip side of it with like many of our philanthropic houses like closing their fourth quarter giving and pausing their first quarter giving, felt like, okay, we all know that this is a big need, but now we can't do it because there's no money.
Yep.
Or limited money, more competitive.
Any other questions? Yes.
Hi, my name is Melissa Hong, and I'm a newly hired executive director for a newly emerging nonprofit called the Flip Museum. We're trying to establish a children's museum in Washington County, and we were recently funded by Washington County. And regarding the concern around funding, my background is in early childhood education, building systems and creating systems change. And I wanted to share a resource for you. It's called Promise Venture Studio. And the challenge that you face is universal across the nation. And there are philanthropic donors who are working internationally and nationally as well. And I just found this list of potential donors, foundations who are interested in investing in early childhood education, but I think it could potentially open doors for funding that you're seeking. And so I just want to share that out there. And I also would love to partner with you because the Flip Museum, we are trying to change the narrative around what children's museums are. We want to be out in the community and partner and create spaces. And we're not trying to start from a brick and mortar building. And so I just wanted to get the word out there as well.
Thank you so very, very much. Yeah, and we're anxious to partner with Flip also. So Leslie, you had a question?
Yeah. First, thank you for your partnership. I'm Leslie Mogill. I coordinate Parenting Together Washington County. It's the parenting hub, and we do a lot of co-promotion of activities. I appreciate that. I was wondering in the data, just a thought for the future, in all those data points that included economically disadvantaged. I've worked with the global majority my entire career, and I think the mission of serving all kids is what we all want. But within that block of economically disadvantaged, I would say the kids who have least access to after-school programs are not only economically disadvantaged, but even more so when you tease out race, ethnicity, neighborhood, zip code. And what is Washington County kids, because we don't have the funding we need to serve all, how do we take the small amounts that we might get, and you mentioned one good example of that, partnering with Centro Cultural to apply for a grant to do just that. I'm just interested in that. And if you're looking at maybe digging deeper in the data piece.
Yeah, the data is there. It is, even here, what we did is we really tried to make it a little bit more simplified for a presentation. When you get into the data regarding breakdowns on ethnicity, it gets even more complicated. It really does. And but without any funding at all, there is no public funding basically for after school and summer very little. There's some SSA money, yes, but a lot of times that's up to the school district as whether they want to spend it on after school or summer. They have a choice, and a lot of times that money is going toward counseling and more teachers, which, you know, who can argue with that? You know, there's really problems there as well. But that some of that money could be spent, and some of the school districts have used the money to spend it. Forest Grove and Hillsborough have done that to some degree. Anyway, very good point, and we really appreciate the partnership in terms of talking about training for staff, particularly providers. Any other questions? Yes. Yes.
People are talking about like systemic change and, money issues aside, we know that summer learning loss is an issue. It's gone forever. Many states have gone to year-round school as a way to mitigate some of that summer learning loss. And then I also heard this thing in New York City, and they were talking about, the lack of recreational activities for students.
Yeah.
And they realized, oh, we have all these school buildings, which are in fact public buildings. And so they've turned those buildings into community resources and really opened them up as community assets to solve recreational deserts, academic deserts, whatever it might be. So I just wonder when and where's the advocacy, because those disparities, as you pointed out, existed prior to the pandemic significantly. So something systemically isn't working in the way we approach public education, and we probably need to think about how that system should evolve and change as well.
Sure. Larry's going to talk to that a little bit.
So I have been trying to get the school districts, Beaverton and Hillsborough, to agree to support after-school activities, and there is a whole range of issues why the school districts can't or won't allow their buildings to be used after hours. So that's a really tough nut to crack.
So I'll make my way over there. But that's actually one of the largest issues that came out of our provider meetings. We hear from multiple providers, the disparity between school districts within one county. Some welcome with open arms, some want to have nothing to do with them. And it's a huge issue that needs to be addressed.
So we have done some advocacy on that. We will continue to do that. I would suggest if you're interested in working on that with us, that you take a look at our contact information, get in touch, and we would love to work with you on it, because that is a huge issue. As taxpayers, we pay for those facilities. I mean, I don't want to minimize the problem they have in terms of staffing with custodial care, making sure their buildings are safe, because then the kids come back and they have to have their education in there as well. So there has to be a way of working on that. But in order to really help kids out and support them during non-school time, it's really key to work with them and try and figure out a way that does not break the bank for either side.
And Bruce, just to elaborate on the barriers to accessing our schools, I do know that the Beaverton School District School Board has, specifically Dr. Karen Perez, has mentioned that this is a priority for her to make her school buildings more accessible. And the biggest hurdle is the insurance, the insurance that organizations are required to have. And that's something that I don't know if they'll get to do this year because it's a bargaining year, but it's on her radar as something that's really important to increase community relationships between the school and kids. So that's a place to start, is just to remind her that it needs to be done.
All right.
Anything else? I know we have other speakers, so. Okay, thank you very much.